this project, as well as some of the other projects, when students first look at the examples, they become a little bit overwhelmed by removing the training wheels, but just remind them that you're not looking for a photorealistic portrait. This is meant to be a caricature of you, and you can feel free to exaggerate. What are some of the features that identify themselves, how they identify themselves? Like for me, if we look in these pictures, I'm just going to be honest, I'm balding and I have brown hair. I do have glasses, even though you can't see them in this picture. And I usually have a 5 o'clock shadow 90% of the time. If I nail these 3 pieces, people will probably recognize me. I highly recommend using reference photos rather than just going off the top of their heads. With this type of illustration, in all honesty, with a lot of different types of illustrations, sometimes less is more. If I try to add too many different features, too many different lines, it's going to get muddled and get lost and actually become way harder. So less is more in this project. So let's get started. So I'm going to start with a clean slate here. As you can see, I brought in a couple of different reference photos. I basically just copied and pasted them. I created a new layer that I'm going to be working with. As you can see, with my reference photos are on layer 2, and my other layer, my blank layer, is on layer 1. I'm actually going to lock my reference photos so that way I don't accidentally click on them over and over again. Let's start with just the shape of our head. As you can see with my original one, I don't really have a neck. Who says you have to have a neck? It's up to you. If students do want to have a neck and a proportional head, I'll show you 2 different ways to make the head shape. Head shape option 1 is we're going to go up to the rectangle, just like we did with our Yeti, draw that rectangle, then I'm actually going to go to my direct select tool and directly select the 2 top corners and hold down shift while I do it, allowing me to bring those curves in. So now we have a rough shape of a head. One thing that's nice as well with the direct select tool is that I can actually just pick one line and pull that down if it's not long enough. Now let's talk about colors as well. So with this shape, if I have it selected, I can go to my color panel on my left, my fill, and pick whatever color I want that I feel that works well for my color. Or another really good option is if I hit the eye for eyedropper, I can actually just go over to my reference photo and click around until I find a color that I think works well for this picture or for this illustration. I think that works. Maybe I want to go a little lighter. Now, just like in the Yeti illustration, I can actually go to my color guide and now jump into my different color layouts. And I'm going to pick an analogous. Go to my 3 little lines, save colors to swatches. So now, for the rest of the project, I can just jump into here and pull those swatch colors out. Okay. The other option for a head shape, which students seem to like, is going to my ellipse tool, create a rough shape, object, envelope distort, make with warp. I'm going to reset these so that it's not as funky. As you can see here, we have a lot of different options. We have bend, horizontal, vertical. We can go horizontal and vertical is here as well. So if we just start here with our bend, if I go switch it to vertical, it'll kind of rotate it that way. If I do horizontal, it'll make the bottom smaller, the top smaller, so you can get a wide variety of options here. So you just kind of play around with this. Maybe you do an upper arc, lower arc. I'll have students just kind of play with this until they're happy with their head shape. Anytime you're using envelope distort, you always have to make sure that you also go back again, envelope distort, and hit expand. So now we have that shape. For me, I'm going to stick with the original one. Let's start adding some facial features. Now that we have our head shape, I'm actually going to go over to my panel here, my layers panel, and I'm going to lock the head. So that way I don't keep touching it and moving it, and it gets end up being really frustrating. I'm also going to add a new layer for my eyes. For my eyes, it's pretty simple. I'm going to make some ellipse tools, or make a couple circles. I'm going to switch it to, you can go white. Side note, I usually go with like a gray. And even for my blacks, I usually don't go black. I usually go a little bit lighter than black. It just makes it so things don't have such a high contrast. With the eyes, you can go to something just as simple as doing circles. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to create a second circle. And then I have blue eyes, so I'm actually going to change mine to blue. And I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. Make another eye, or copy that circle again by holding on Alt/Option. And then, like I said, I usually do a little, almost like a dark gray. And that's my pupil. Just like in my Yeti picture, I usually like to make reflections. So I'm going to make a copy of that back white, make a larger reflection, put that there. I need to make sure that it's on top, which it currently isn't. If I go to my layers, I can see where this blue little square is. That's the layer that I currently have selected. So I'm going to pull that up and bring it above. Make it one more copy of that, a little bit smaller. Put it there. As we zoom out, you can see we have a nice eye. I can also copy, pull it over. Now I have two. Remember, I made the copy by holding down Alt/Option. Now I have two eyes. There's lots and lots and lots of ways to make the eyes. I'm going to show you one more method using our pathfinders. So I'm actually, in this one, I'm going to make two circles and have them overlap. I'm going to go over to my pathfinder options. I'm going to click on the intersect tool. Show you that again. As you can see here, the intersect tool makes it so wherever those two shapes intersect, it's going to keep that and delete the other two, just like the picture shows. From there, I'm going to make that circle, just like we did before. Create the blue. Make a copy. Change that color to gray. Okay. Make that smaller. And then do my reflections. The thing that's nice about this project, it allows students to come up with a bunch of different creative ways to make any of the facial features. Once again, I'm going to stick around with the one that I used at the beginning. One thing I'm going to do to make my life a little bit easier is I'm actually just going to select one of the eyes. I'm going to hit Command G. That groups it. That makes it so it stays together. So that way, as I move it around, they all kind of stick together. If I do want to make adjustments, if I double click on that, you can see everything else kind of grays out a little bit. And you can also see here, layer 4, I'm inside of my group. At that point, I can actually move stuff around. I'm going to group this one as well, Command G. As you may have noticed on my original illustration that my eyes had a little bit of a cut out underneath of it. I'm going to show you a really easy way to make that happen. So all we're going to do is essentially hide it. So I'm going to take an ellipse tool, and I'm actually going to get the same color as I had as my skin. I'm just going to make an oval that goes on top of my eyes. So from here, I can actually just cover that up, creating almost like a smiley, smiley cheek idea with that. So I'm going to duplicate that, bring it over. Let's work on the eyebrows. So what we can do, I'm going to take my ellipse tool and I am going to make a circle. So let's pick a color. I'm going to use my stroke color instead of my fill for this one. And I'm going to pick one of the colors that already fall into this category. All right, I'm going to make a circle. And we are going to actually take our direct select tool, and I'm going to directly select a couple points. So I'm going to directly select this bottom point here. I'm just going to hit delete, leaving me with a half circle. So I can leave it like that. And I can do a big eyebrow, or I can actually just delete one more of those sections, leaving me with this. I'm going to rotate. If I hold down Shift, remember it'll rotate a quarter of the way. I'm going to resize a little bit. And I'm going to change the stroke weight. So I'm going to just bump it up to there. So yeah, that would totally work. If we want to get a little fancier with it, let's do a couple other things. So I'm going to stay selected on there. I'm going to go over to my stroke window over here. And I actually want to, and I'm going to go to my cap. So instead of a flat end, how it is right now, if I change my cap, now you can see it's rounded on both sides. Cool. I think it's already looking better. If we want to add a little bit more to it, another thing we can do is go over to my width tool. And the width tool is pretty cool. This is a tool that I use a lot when I'm doing more almost like graphic illustrations, because it'll give me more variety in my stroke. So I can go in here. I'll just show you that one more time. So I'm on my width tool. I can go anywhere in here. So I can go here and then click and pull, and it'll change the width of my eyebrow. Done. All right, I'm going to click on it. I'm going to hit, if I'm on a Mac, I'm going to hit Control click, or if I'm on a PC, I'm going to right click, and then I'm going to transform, reflect, copy. So now that I have two, just drag it over. Now I have eyebrows. Let's make a nose. I'm going to show you two different ways to make noses. Like anything else, there's 1,000 different ways you can do it. I'm actually going to do it in a very similar way to what we did with our Yeti. So I'm just going to make a circle. And then I'm going to go to my direct select tool. I'm just going to pull that up. Boom, there we go. Once again, it's an illustration, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. It's not a photorealistic drawing. It's a playful illustration. I'm going to show you another way that works really well. I'm going to make a circle, and then a smaller circle, and then just copy that smaller circle. Then I'll bring these, line them up. Right, there you go. Right, so that easily could also be another nose. Let's pull that into place. Or you can even do a combination of the two. Right? All right, I'm going to go back to my original one. Okay, let's talk about ears. Ears are ridiculously easy. This is one of those where, work smarter, not harder. So I'm actually just going to use my rounded rectangle tool this time. I'm actually going to go to my head shape layer, and I'm going to just make a shape that goes all the way across. But I'm going to bring it to the back. So I'm going to hit Command, Shift, left bracket, bringing it all the way to the back. You can see from here, now we have ears, right? Totally adjustable. Bring them higher, lower, totally up to you. Okay. I'm also going to take this and go up top. I'm going to select my ears and my head shape, and I'm going to select horizontal alignment. So that way I know that they're lined up. I'm going to relock that. All right, so let's mess around with the idea of a mouth. So I'm going to start with a circle, drag it, make an oval shape, and I'm actually going to go up to Object, Envelope, Distort, something that we had actually done earlier in a different project. So I'm going to make with Warp. And in here you can see I can play around with it, right? I can go left side, I can go right side. If I want to make I can smile, shocked. I can even change any of this stuff, right? So just play around with it, find something that, makes you happy. I'm going to go bring mine to the right a little bit to kind of that weird face. Okay. And as always, make sure you go up to Object, Envelope, Distort, Expand, right? So now it's an actual shape. Teeth, I'm going to make an oval. I'm going to hit I to use my eyedropper to make sure it's that same color. I'm just going to kind of throw these in there. I'm going to maybe rotate it a little bit so it matches up. I think I'll be happy with that. I'm actually going to take both of these, select them, And I'm going to hit Option to duplicate it, drag it over, select them again, and then I'm going to click to intersect. So what's left is this teeth shape, which is right here. I'm going to drag this down, and this should be fit perfectly inside of there. All right, now I'm going to take this one, do the same thing. Select the mouth shape, select that oval shape, copy it, and do the intersect. All right, and so what's left is this inside piece. It takes a little bit of fussing around to get it to line up perfectly. As you can see, now we have a mouth. Sometimes if you zoom in really close, it's a little easier to get them all perfectly lined up. All right, we'll just say that's good for right now. And then I'll make a tongue, which is actually really easy. I'm going to get that same pink color so everything's kind of color harmonious. Copy that shape, bring it in. I'm actually just going to unite these two, bring it to the mouth, and move it back. So Command left bracket until it's behind there. All right. Sometimes all we're doing is just hiding stuff. And if we're happy with the mouth, I'm actually going to select all the pieces, hit Command G so they're grouped, so I can move them around, I can rotate them, I can do anything I want to. Let's see, what else? Oh, let's do a pair of glasses really quick. So rectangle, I'm going to go to my color choices again, just like we did before. I'm actually going to turn these brown, or let's do black. Right now it's filled, so I'm going to switch that, and I'm actually going to change my stroke to a little thicker, and I'm going to round off my corners. Maybe make it a little thicker. Bring that in. Change the size, proportions a little bit. Maybe thicken that up a little bit. Zoom in. Let's try not to overcomplicate this, right? So I'm going to basically just make a copy, drag it over. I'm going to, just like we did for my eyebrows, I'm going to take a circle. And I'm going to get my direct select tool and get rid of a couple of those. So now I have that. The set for the nose cover. Rotate, throw it in. And then I'll just do a straight line to make the edges. All right, so you can see it's really coming together. We'll cover a couple more things real quick. We'll talk about hair and then a torso as well. Torso, once again, you don't need to really overcomplicate things. Students have the option to do as advanced or as basic as they would like. So with this, I'm just going to go in, make a rectangle, go into my colors, maybe, I don't know, pick something totally different than I've used so far. Maybe still stick around with that pastel-y. Let's just go with purple for the heck of it. Get rid of my stroke, minus that. And so what I'm left with is this. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my corners. I'm going to select my top two corners. And then from there, I'm just going to round them in. So depending on how broad you want your shoulders to be, any of that stuff, I'm just going to go with this. And then I'm going to get an ellipse tool. And then I kind of want it to line up in a way where my edge comes down is where that shape comes in. So I'm going to go there, and there, and then I'm going to minus front, and so what's left is that. If we take our direct select tool, we can actually select just this top line, make a copy with Command C, hit Command V, and now we have that line. I'm going to take my purple and bring it a little bit darker of a purple, hit OK, and then switch my fill to a stroke instead, and then thicken up that stroke. All right, and then I can use my width tool, and I can thicken or thin up that line on this insides, make it thicker on the outsides. Now I can take this and drag it into where I just cut it from. Now it can kind of look like it's like the collar of my shirt. I can even direct select that center, pull it down a little bit to make it a little more roundish. All right, hair, there's so many options, right? Like I said, kind of what I did was I made, because I don't have much hair, I basically just took two overlapping ovals and did the minus, the intersect, right? And so what was left was this shape, which I can fill in and make it work. But you can be creative and take that same shape, make it bigger. You can clearly see, do that, flip it, right? So a lot of it's just learning how to, how to layer stuff. All right, so I could take this, duplicate it, flip it, shrink it. All right, so you can kind of see how, a different hairstyle could start popping together just like that. Right, so a lot of it's just playing around, having fun, and trying to be creative with, the different stuff that we have. I'm going to show you a couple different resources that I have found that have been really useful as far as like getting ideas or even trying to wrap my brain around how to make some of this stuff. So here's 3 links that are up here. We have Renault, this guy named Fran Solo, and then a company called Gigantic. I'll show you those super quick. So this is Gigantic. They do a really great job, and you can see here a wide variety of different hairstyles, even if it's just a reference. Fran Solo has a really great website on Behance, and they do a lot of really neat, replications of different, famous characters and stuff like that. And then Renault, he actually takes it to a whole nother level and actually turns them into GIF animations. And so there's a lot of really cool things that you can do with this. With the tools and the techniques that we just covered in this video, as well as some of the visual resources that we just outlined on those websites, is that you should be well on your way to get this project started with your students. Remember, we all have to start somewhere. Be patient with yourself, and just remember to have fun. The more you work with this stuff, the more you explore, the easier it's going to get over time. I promise.